Tonight, we're grabbing a pint at one of Massachusetts' most haunted bars and restaurants, Stone's Public House in Ashland. Built beside a railroad, this place has been allegedly linked to murder, gruesome accidents, and maybe even the Underground Railroad. Over its nearly 200 years of existence, Stone's has seen some shit, and it's absolutely crawling with ghost stories, many of which are backed by real eyewitnesses. I'm Sean.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Kathy.
And this is Weirder After Dark. Were you fans of Ghost Hunters?
Loved Ghost Hunters back in the day.
Yeah, that's a great show.
It was so good, right?
Yeah.
It was so good. It used to be one of my favorite things. Now, I was born in 1990, so like when Ghost Hunters came out, I think it was like 2003, something like that.
Yeah, I think
I was
so.
like 12, 13 years old, so like right up my fucking alley,
Yeah.
right? Some weird shit. Have you recently gone back at all and watched any of the Ghost Hunter episodes?
Not recently.
I have.
Yeah. Chris is like, why would I?
Yeah.
Like, why would I revisit this?
Why do I want to do that? Our daughter used to, when she was younger, she loved Ghost Hunters. So
Yeah, she was 5 years old and it
Yeah.
was her favorite show.
It was her favorite show. So we used to watch it all the time.
Which made me feel like a bad parent, but she really loved it.
She really liked it. She wasn't afraid of ghosts and stuff like that. So it was fine.
I just didn't want the school to like call one day and say, your daughter really loves ghost hunting shows. Do you think that's appropriate? She's in first grade.
I just, for the first time ever, felt old. I was doing the math in my head. I was like, 2003 is when it came out. That was 22 years ago. That was, oh my God, I feel so old. Anyways, for this episode, Stone's Public House, Ghost Hunters, they went there and they explored it. So for part of my research, I got to relive my 13-year-old experience of watching the show.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I gotta say,
what season was it?
Season 1, episode 3.
So it's the third one they've ever made?
And it was like our podcast. It was so bad. It was not good. They had, my favorite part was like their like jump cuts were like the fuzzy screen you used to see on TVs back in the day when the reception was bad. It was like jump over. And like half the episode was just, what was it, Jason and...
Actually, I think it was Stephen Grant.
Stephen Grant. Yeah, Stephen Grant in their car, just like driving around talking about stuff.
My favorite part about Ghost Hunters is when you see the two of them and they're like fixing a toilet and then they get the phone call that like, we've been called in on a case.
It's so good. It's so fucking
like
good.
the FBI or something.
Yeah.
They called in, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right there.
But yeah, the episode today we're doing on Stone's Public House. I know that we all have heard about this before.
Yeah.
Because we've had some shout outs about this place from some of our listeners, right?
We have way back when we first started.
Our very first maybe gang member.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But we actually got a Instagram post after one of our first episode or two talking about this place. And man, she was talking about what witches.
And the Underground Railroad.
Yeah. Ghosts.
Yeah.
Ghosts, her own personal experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of set this off for us being like, eventually this is an episode we're doing. But apparently this is one of the most haunted places in all of Massachusetts.
Ooh.
So I think we're in for a good story here today. You guys ready for it?
I'm ready. I love a good ghost story.
Sean, let's go to the bar.
All
It's
right.
Friday night.
Our story starts in 1832. At that point, Ashland, Massachusetts didn't even exist yet. The land that Stone sits on was part of a small village called Unionville. Unionville was tucked along Sudbury River and about halfway between Framingham and Hopkinton, Massachusetts. It was a quiet patchwork of dusty roads, farmland, and watermills. But the peace was about to be shattered by a loud, rumbling force. The railroad. Choo-choo! I had to. How could you not, right? How could you not? So at this...
You could not.
But he did.
But I did, and that's staying in the edit. Enter, at this point in time, Captain John Stone, which, first off, what a fucking name. Captain John Stone.
I feel like all the names from back in the day were like badass names. They
So
were all
cool.
so cool.
So cool. So Captain John Stone was a respected local militia officer, a businessman, and a landowner. In fact, John Stone owned almost all of the land that made up Unionville, and he had an inside scoop. The Boston and Worcester Railroad was planning to build new tracks right through the center of his land. How did he find out? Turns out his son George was the surveyor for the railroad companies.
Little inside of baseball there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's got the scoop. Where others might have seen disruption, pollution, inconvenience, the tearing up of his beautiful land, not Stone. Stone saw dollar signs. So he did what any savvy opportunist would do. He built a 2-story brick inn and tavern right beside the tracks. Over the decades, the place would go by many names: the Railroad House, John Stone's Inn, and eventually Stone's Public House. For simplicity, though, we'll be calling it Stone's Public House throughout the rest of the episode. No matter what the name it went by at the time, though, it quickly became the beating heart of what would later become Ashland. Travelers came and went, whiskey flowed, deals were struck, and weary passengers slept beneath its roof. John Stone, never one to shy away from hard work, stayed deeply involved in the Stone's Public House operations through the first few years. He reportedly even lived right next door to keep a close eye on things.
Yeah, that's micromanaging a little bit, huh?
That is a committed owner.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that is a next level commitment.
Yeah, he's just like, no, get off my lawn. That's my
I see
lawn.
you.
I see you. Eventually, John began leasing the inn to other businessmen. But even when he wasn't running the show, he remained a constant presence until his death in 1858. Throughout his life, John Stone wasn't just a tavern owner. He was one of the founding members of Ashland's first board of selectmen and a prominent figure in the town. His early investments helped pave the way for Ashland's incorporation in 1846, and he was the kind of man who always knew what was going on in town, mostly because what happened in town was happening at his place. But there may have been more to John than money and municipal power. Stone's Public House may have served a far greater purpose than pouring whiskey and housing weary travelers. Some believe it played a hidden role in one of the most courageous and dangerous networks in American history, the Underground Railroad. There's no official record, of course. There rarely is when survival depends on silence and keeping things on the DL. But during the renovations that happened to Stone's Public House in 1970s, workers discovered something strange. A walled-off room in the basement. Inside were several old wooden cots, a water barrel, and a small handmade ladder. And even more curiously, there was a hidden hatch on the bottom of the floor. Naturally, I wanted to know what the fuck that hidden hatch was for. Where does that go?
Where does that go?
What's going on? Did it go deeper in the ground? Did it connect to a larger network of tunnels used to help enslaved people escape northward towards Canada? I researched and I couldn't find anything concrete that said what that hidden hatch was used for. And that's frustrating for me because it feels like learning more about that hatch could probably unlock something real and something kind of buried, a cool history of this place.
There's only one way to find out.
I agree, Chris.
We got to go.
We gotta go.
And in fact, gang, we're gonna go this weekend. So watch out and be on the lookout for an update in the next couple of episodes. And maybe we'll actually find out what this hatch leads to.
I wonder too, not to be a downer on the story. Maybe is it a root cellar?
I think that's a good question, right?
Yeah.
What is it? When I actually looked at video of them discovering this, ghost hunters, for example, they actually went in there and they did it. It was literally completely walled off portion of the basement. So there had to be some secret way to ultimately get into the corner where the beds were. And in fact, the wall, it actually cut the basement off an extra, 8 feet longer than when it was. So you would walk down there and you would think you were getting to the end of the house, but you were actually 8 feet short. So whatever they were doing, they were clearly trying to hide whoever was staying on the other side of that wall.
Yeah. And how much records are you going to find though? It was a secret, right?
Yeah.
They didn't want to have a paper trail. They didn't want people to know what was happening there.
Exactly.
So
I don't think we'll ever get concrete answers, right, to whether this was part of the Underground Railroad. But I do think if that hatch leads to something more, a network of tunnels, that's a clear-cut sign to me that was some way to get people in and out fast.
Yeah.
That means something.
Yeah.
Or if it's not an underground set of tunnels, maybe it was just another place that if people were coming in and checking out the area, you get in there just to quiet the noises that you might be making, right? Either way, I think it's so cool.
They could have used it during Prohibition. It's a bar. The bar was shut down, but it still sold alcohol out of that room,
Very true.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that there was more evidence that might lead it to being part of the Underground Railroad? Would you be interested in that?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Ashland is just a few miles from Framingham, Massachusetts, which in 1800s was an abolitionist stronghold. The town hosted anti-slavery rallies and was home to Henry Clark Wright, a radical feminist, fierce abolitionist, and close ally of William Lloyd Garrison, one of the fiercest enemies of slavery the country has ever produced. So when we start factoring in that's just a couple miles down the road that you have these people with loud voices fighting against slavery, I think that starts to all of a sudden add some weight that this very well could have been a part of the Underground Railroad. This could have some rich history.
The owner's politically connected.
Yeah.
He's, a man about town. He's on the board.
Exactly.
Right.
That's not some romantic fantasy fantasy, I don't think. And while there's no direct documentation, Stone's proximity to the abolitionist hubs, its secluded location, and the timing all align with known routes of the Underground Railroad. And in many confirmed Underground Railroad locations across New England, similar hidden rooms and hatches even have been found. So to me, that's not just a rumor. That's some good fucking New England lore right there, is what I think.
That seems like that's got a lot of stuff to like back that up.
Yeah, I agree. Doesn't sound far-fetched at all. But Stone's doesn't stop surprising us with just this story. Even weirder, there might be more than just history buried in the basement of Stone's public house. The story doesn't surface until the 1980s when a local hypnotist and paranormal researcher named Ralph Bibbo began conducting sessions inside of the inn. But during one of those sessions, Bibbo hypnotized a participant as part of a basic past life regression. But what emerged is going to be anything but an ordinary night with a hypnotist. Under hypnosis, the participant began to speak in a different voice. One, Bibbo said, wasn't their own. The tone shifted. The words came unprompted. Bibbo wasn't even asking these types of questions. And through that voice, a story began to unfold. A poker game, a man named Michael McPherson, a violent confrontation, a blow to the head, and then a body hidden underneath the floorboards at Stone's public house. The voice named one of the men who were there at that card game, and it was John Stone himself. Apparently, Stone and a group of like 8 prominent local businessmen who were inside of the place playing cards. And there was one newcomer to the group, this McPherson fellow. And supposedly throughout the whole entire game, there were some looks going around. Accusations began to fly that there was some cheating going on. And McPherson had $3,000 bet on the table against Stone. And $3,000 at the time was about like 120 grand on the table. McPherson won. And that's when all of a sudden John Stone called the man out that he was cheating and called bullshit. And apparently Stone, based off of this story, grabs something very close and just smashes it against McPherson's head. But it gets even crazier than that. So now there's 7 men sitting around the table watching this man who just died in the moment there. What do the men do?
They help cover it up.
They help cover it up.
Fuck yeah.
They help bring him to the fucking...
I don't know why I got really excited about that. I'm sorry, but like that's a good ghost story right there. Yeah.
Supposedly the men helped go to the basement, helped ultimately shovel the hole that they buried this man's body in, and then they all just agreed to keep it secret, and a word of it never supposedly spread after that. I don't know. That's got to be a fucking ghost story. Bibbo believed this wasn't imagination. It was communication from the afterlife. So much so that he requested permission to excavate the basement in search for McPherson's remains. And guess what they found?
You're kidding me.
Were they there?
Nothing. They found nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. No bones. No,
come on, man.
No bricks disturbed. No physical proof. But that doesn't mean the story is going to stop here just because nothing was found. The ghost story continued to grow. Many of the paranormal reports coming from the basement line up eerily with what Bibbo described. Ghost hunters, mediums, psychics say there are male presences inside the basement. Bartenders have reported bottles and glasses flying off of shelves with no explanation. Cold spots supposedly move and follow people. Lights flicker without a cause. And the most compelling, multiple guests, completely unconnected to anything to do with this place, have reported hearing cards shuffle. Not just faintly, loudly.
So like they're like shuffling a deck of cards?
Yeah, it's like you can hear a shuffling of a deck.
It's almost, proof, not proof, but proof that what Bibbo was saying was true, right? You hear the cards shuffling and you have these male presences and somebody might have gotten killed during a card game.
Yeah. So is it true? Maybe, maybe not. But if McPherson's, John Stone's, and the other men's spirits are who's trapped inside of the Stone's public house, they're not alone. Another story involves a young girl named Mary J. Smith. On June 11th, 1863, 10-year-old Mary was hit by a train just steps from the inn. They rushed her inside of Stone's public house trying to save her, but she died on the floor before help could arrive. Her death was sudden and brutal. From that day forward, strange things started happening. Guests and staff have seen a young girl in a white dress roaming the second floor, often near the windows or disappearing into old storage rooms, just giggling which is so fucking creepy.
That's so creepy.
It's so creepy.
I always feel like, too, though, like the ghosts of children, those are always the creepiest ghosts.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, there's something creepy about like children ghosts.
Just children, period.
Children in general are creepy.
I mean, I like live children.
Debatable. In the attic and near the kitchen, things get even weirder. Tiny footsteps appearing on freshly cleaned floors. Children's handprints found near the top of a tall mirror that no child could possibly reach. One cook reportedly quit on spot after watching a little girl walk straight through a kitchen wall and vanish without a sound.
Yeah, I'd be out
I'd
too.
be fucking out too.
It's a good call.
Yeah. And yet, the story gets stranger. In the 1980s, more than 120 years after Mary's alleged death, a waitress was cleaning out a dusty storage space above the dining room when she discovered something unexpected. A small, crumpled white dress, child size, and stained with blood.
I heard about this from our listener. When I dug in. Yeah,
is that?
It's crazy.
That's
And
so crazy.
I don't know if this is in your story or not, but in the pub now, they have it
Just
framed.
wait.
Okay.
Just
All right.
wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. Word spread fast. Locals began whispering that this was the very dress Mary wore the day she died. We don't know for sure if it's the real thing. No testing's ever been done on it. But those who saw it and see it swear that it is clearly fucking old. It is clearly stained in blood. And it's like it was just up there waiting to be found. But here's where it turns from creepy to chilling. Soon after the dress was disturbed, the staff began noticing an uptick in paranormal activity, and not the playful kind. The building's energy reportedly turned aggressive, more intense, like something was angry. And eventually, the staff decided, I'm fucking done with this. Let's put the dress back where we fucking found it. Like, put it back. And when they did, something shifted. The building calmed down. The energy didn't vanish, but it changed to less hostile, more watchful kind of in a way. Like something's still there, but it's at least not fucking with us anymore. Today, the dress still exists, Kathy, to your point. It's been preserved and now hangs behind glass on the second floor, a silent reminder of life and death that left its mark on Stone's Public House.
That's a little morbid.
I mean, what do you do with it? If you're also scared to remove it because activity picks up, like,
right?
What do you do?
Why do you display it? That's a little macabre for me.
I mean, if you're leaning in to
haunted
history.
I mean, I guess like if you could think about it, like, so they found the dress and they removed it, right? And then all the activity started acting up. They brought the dress back and then everything settled down. Kind of having it on display acknowledges that this little girl existed.
Kind of honoring her memory in a way.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I could get behind that.
It's kind of like maybe like they said they had like this feeling like it was meant to be found. I mean, that kind of like gives validation to her. Like she really existed.
Yeah, that feels less evil to me.
Yeah.
I like that too. I think we can all agree, though, it sounds almost unbelievable, this whole story, right?
Yeah.
Like, girl gets hit by train, dies in place, hauntings occur, we find their bloody dress, we remove the dress, crazy shit happens, we put the dress back, things calm down. It seems crazy. Well, here's the part where legend turns into something more real. Genealogist Lisa Healy Miller tracked down Mary's actual death certificate, and the certificate confirmed that a 10-year-old girl named Mary J. Smith died in Ashland on June 11th, 1863, as the result of a railroad accident just outside of the inn. So this story, it isn't just town gossip. It isn't just a legend. It is actually fucking plausible. And maybe, just maybe, the occasional like phantom giggles heard by this little girl, maybe they really are Mary. Because in this case, we've got more than just a ghost story. We have a date. We have a name. We have an actual accident. We have a blood-stained fucking dress found in a hallway tucked away in the fucking attic a century later. I don't know. Like, this is one of the first stories when you start piecing things together. That kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It all adds up, right?
It does. It doesn't normally. When we tell ghost stories, they don't usually add up.
They don't usually add up. Usually by the end of it, it's like, well, this isn't really what happened.
Yeah. But there's more.
I like this one.
Another chilling tale tied to Stone's Public House centers on a woman named Henrietta Smith. And no, there's no relation between Mary and Henrietta. Their both names just end in Smith. Just another eerie layer of coincidence to this place. But according to local lore, in 1887, Henrietta Smith vanished without a trace near the inn. Her disappearance was never solved, and no official records even detail her fate. But the story doesn't just end here. Most of the time, someone goes missing, there's no records, and they're like, what the fuck happened? It ends. Staff and patrons have reported sightings of a woman in Victorian-era clothing wandering the halls of Stone's public house. She's often seen near the second-floor windows, gazing out as if waiting for someone or something. Others have felt a sudden chill or an unexplainable sense of sorrow when passing certain areas of the inn. Some believe these occurrences are tied to Henrietta's unresolved fate. Was she a traveler who never made it to her destination? A local whose story was erased? We don't know, but something about the upstairs window and people often seeing someone in there makes you wonder if she's still waiting for something.
You know, it's interesting because this is a very transient place, right? It's a train stop, essentially.
Yeah.
So you get all kinds of people in and out and they disappear and all that energy.
I never thought of it like that, right? Like, and maybe it's a stop for some people in the afterlife as well, too. People coming and going. There's like some interesting connection there, Chris.
I'm like also thinking too, like you have like the Underground Railroad. So like that has a lot of energy that's going to be left behind, even from people that were there that survived and moved on to the next. Like your energy is just so hyped up because of the trauma that you're going through. It has to leave some sort of a footprint, right? Mm-hmm. And then like now you have like this little girl, and then you have, like you said, all these people with their energies coming in all different walks of life. Like maybe something was left behind. And
it is interesting. So we have all these ghost stories. What I want to do is kind of go back and talk a little bit more about the restaurant for a second, okay? After John Stone's death in 1858, Stone's Public House passed through several hands. Ownership changed again and again until eventually the once vibrant inn fell into disrepair. By the 1950s, it was no longer even in operation. The lights dim, the door shut, and the place sat silent. That is, until 1976, when a man named Leonard Cappy Fournier bought the crumbling property with one mission: to restore it to its former glory. But as soon as the renovations began, things started to get weird. Doors wouldn't stay bolted shut, even if they were double-checked before closing up. Tools would just randomly disappear and then reappear in strange places. But then came the moment that changed everything for Cappy. There was a blizzard one evening. After cleaning and locking up, Cappy and his staff turned off the lights and headed home. Since Cappy's car was in the shop, one of his employees offered to drive him home that night. They reached the car, which was piled with snow, wiped it all down, and then both got into the vehicle. They turned the windshield wipers on. They again could see the inn. But when Cappy glanced at the inn, every single light was turned on. First floor, second floor, but maybe most mysteriously, the third floor. Well, here's the kicker. The third floor didn't have power.
What?
An electrician had just disconnected the power to the third floor several days earlier to prepare for renovations they were going to start making to it.
And there was like no lights shining from anywhere else.
Nope. Cappy and his employee stared at the glowing windows, speechless. Cappy wasn't much of a believer in the paranormal, but as the strange incidents piled up, his mind began to open.
I would be making a phone call to the electrician and be like, so did you really cut the power up there? What's going on?
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Are you sure? I think you need to go in and go check right now.
I mean, in normal circumstances, you lost your pair of pliers when you're working on a job, no big deal.
Yep.
You're in a haunted place, though, those pair of pliers were taken by a paranormal entity, right?
Yeah. And I watched umpteen videos of this guy, Cappy, on YouTube, and like he seems and strikes me like a skeptic. And when he was telling these stories, like you could feel his fear, like coming through decades later from when these incidents actually occurred. I believed him. It seemed real. So now we have Cappy, who's just experienced this crazy event and his mind's starting to open up to be like, maybe the paranormal is real, right? And after that, his staff started reporting figures that they saw, whispering voices, objects moving, feelings they couldn't explain. So Cappy did what any good haunted inn owner would do. He invited in some psychics, mediums, and ghost hunters inside his house. And the building's reputation from there, it only continued to grow. One of the best documented investigations came from the New England Ghost Project. During a session in the dining room, they recorded an EVP, and it was the voice of a man whispering, "Don't go down there."
Ooh.
Yeah.
Freaky.
Moments later, right after that EVP came through, the equipment just stopped working.
That's a common thing that I hear a lot with ghost hunts where the equipment just stops, cuts out, or the battery's drained, even though it's been...
Like the spirits are like sapping the energy from the equipment or something to manifest.
That's what I thought. Like maybe it's the energy, they need it, and they use it so they can manifest and Just drains all the equipment.
Yeah. And that wasn't the only firsthand account. A longtime bartender, Michael D., told the Metro West Daily News in 2017 that he once watched a stack of pint glasses explode in front of him. No temperature shift, no vibration, no one else nearby, just explode. Another tale shared during the 2018 Ghosts of Ashland walking tour came from a server who claimed she had heard her name whispered clear as day. She turned around to find the dining room completely fucking empty.
Dude, we need to go.
She quit the next morning. As Kathy's like, let's go. Even a few of our Weirder After Dark listeners shared stories about this place, and I want to share some with you. This is from North Rubert 594. He shared the following story. I went there one early afternoon after having some work done on my house. I paid the contractor by check and still had my checkbook in my back pocket when I sat down at the bar at what was then John Stone's Inn. It was just me and the bartender. We started talking about the haunted happenings at the place, and he said some of the staff didn't like going down in the basement by themselves. He then told me one time when he first started working that he was joking around that there were no such thing as ghosts, and immediately, right after he said that, 2 wine glasses fell from the rack over the bar and shattered. After I finished my beer and went home, I realized my checkbook was gone. I was frantic because there was about 15 blank checks in there, and the bank charges $20 for each stop payment I put on them.
Ooh.
So I called Stone's to see if it had fallen out at the bar. They said they hadn't seen it, but that they'd keep an eye out. The next morning, just as I was about to head to my bank, they called and they said they found it, but they didn't find it in the usual lost and found location. It was in the kitchen, up on a shelf, inside of a basket, right between 2 wine glasses.
What?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like it didn't fall out of his pocket into the kitchen in a basket on a shelf.
Yeah. And 2 wine glasses, the story about ghosts not being real, 2 wine glasses shattered. So it's like, oh, that's kind of weird.
I could see a sketchy dishwasher finding it on the floor and being like,
I was thinking
put this away for later.
That's what I was thinking.
Or
maybe write some checks if nobody claims it.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like if I'm a sketchy dishwasher, and no claims, you're not sketchy, but if there was a sketchy dishwasher, like you're putting that in your pocket and you're writing some fucking checks, right? And you're going to go get some fucking Applebee's later or some shit, I don't know.
Is that what
cards and bubble gum.
Is that what you would write checks for? Is Applebee's?
I don't know. The only checks I've ever written in my life were to my landlord. And I like you, John. I'm not writing you fake checks. He continued to say, I've eaten their scents. They have great food, but I will never bring up ghosts anymore. I don't blame you. He thought this ghost was playing a prank on him or something like that. Yeah. But maybe the biggest question isn't about who's haunting the building. It's why. Because if Stone's Public House really did shelter people fleeing slavery, if those tunnels were used for freedom, not freight, then maybe these aren't just ghost stories. Maybe they're echoes of trauma, of memory, of people who never got closure. And what does it mean when we're drinking right on top of their footsteps as the ghosts of them are hiding for their lives downstairs? Stone's is a building soaked in memory, some joyful, some dark, and some still waiting to be heard. But just when you think all the stories have been told, the inn throws one more curveball at us. Witch marks.
Witch marks?
What is a witch mark?
Some people believe the upper rooms of Stone's contains early colonial protective carvings known as daisy wheels or witch marks. These are ritual symbols, often circles with radial lines carved into the wood to ward off evil and protect the space. While Ashland was not a hotspot during the Salem witch trials, it was deeply a Puritan town, and nearby communities like Sudbury and Marlborough have their own legacies of folk magic. According to the Massachusetts Historical Commission, these marks, along with hex signs, have been found in numerous 18th and 19th century homes throughout Middlesex County. And it makes sense, I think. If you're living in a place where the lines between natural and supernatural feel a little weird, maybe you carve a symbol above the hearth or inside of the ceiling or just on your threshold, just in case, something weird's going on there. A recent guest at Stone's Public House even claimed to find a pentagram etched into the underside of the table leg. A story that was actually shared on no other place than TikTok.
It's on TikTok. That shit's real.
It has to be real. But you can really go look this up. It's at New England Haunts, and it came out in October 2022. And you can watch that video and see a quick video of it flashing a pentagram cut into the leg. But to me, here's the kicker. If those marks were meant to protect the place, what does it mean that people are still seeing things today. Some paranormal researchers have suggested something darker, that these carvings aren't keeping spirits out anymore.
Oh, no, they're keeping them in?
They're keeping them in.
Oh, that's awful.
Today, Stone's Public House is fully functioning tavern and restaurants, and they're not hiding from the ghosts. They've actually leaned into it. They host ghost dinners, Halloween events, and even allow overnight investigations. It's been featured on The Most Terrifying Places in America, the Travel Channel, Ghost Hunters as we talked about, and pretty much any big blog or news station that's covered anything haunted New England. But here's the twist. It's not just spooky gimmicks. People rave about the fucking food. Apparently, it's the place to be. The history is real. The food is good. You got some ghosts. Let's fucking go. So the next time you are in Ashland, stop by.
Why'd you go all paisano?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just feeling myself. So the next time you're in Ashland, stop by, order a pint, and maybe leave a chair open, because at Stone's, you never really drink alone. Because this place, it holds more than just echoes. A poker game that may or may not have ended in blood. A young girl who's lost to a passing train. Tunnels that might have led to freedom. Symbols carved into the wood to keep something out. It's layered, like history and folklore all got drunk, swapped secrets, and never left. And somehow in the stillness, just maybe, Captain John Stone is still there, watching over it all, keeping the lights on in a place that refuses to stay buried. And that is my story.
That was really good.
Yeah, I didn't know how deep that story went. All I know is that listener who called in and said, it's haunted.
Yeah, and it fucking was. Who would have guessed? Our listeners, the gang, they know their shit.
Yeah.
They know their haunted history.
Yeah.
They know their fucking local legends. And we fucking love you. We love you.
Yeah, no, this was a good one. I am really excited to go there.
Yeah, me too.
I really want to. I'm like sitting here looking and I'm like, what time is it? Oh, it's only 6:40.
We could drive an hour, have dinner, drive an hour home. Yeah.
Like by the time we get there, it'll only be like 7:40. They're open till 10.
Yeah.
We have plenty of time.
I love it.
So much history.
Yeah.
You know, the way she was describing it, I was seeing it as this little hole in the wall bar, and it's like, okay, a bunch of local bar, but I didn't realize it went back to the 1700s. And
yeah. So much history. And I love when we can actually get something, I hate calling like a dead person's bloody dress tangible, but like when you can have some type of tangible history that goes with it, that brings it to life.
Well, especially like confirming, like with the death certificate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It adds so much depth to these stories and really makes me go, I fucking see something.
Might see something.
We might be able to
there.
prove something.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoyed the story. And gang, I hope you enjoyed it too. We will make sure that we're going to follow up, because over the next couple of days, we are going to get ourselves down to Stone's Public House. And if we don't see ghosts, we're going to have a fucking good meal, apparently, from these reviews. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah. We'll start one of our next episodes off with a little kind of debrief about what we experienced there. Let's go ahead. Let's wrap everything up again. As I said, Instagram is where you can find us. I'll go ahead. I'm going to put some pictures and some images that are going to support the story that I put together here. So if you haven't, be sure to go ahead and check that out. And don't forget, not only are we looking for stories and tales from Stone's Public House, if you've had anything weird happen to you, we want to hear about that. Have you been haunted by a ghost? Have you played a card game and murdered a person and buried their body in your basement? We want to hear about it.
Do we?
Yeah, maybe not. But we want to hear it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. We want to hear about your stories. And you can send your weird and creepy stories to us at thegang@weirderafterdark.com. And it's not just Instagram that we're building communities. We're building them over on Facebook as well as on Reddit. And you can, again, visit those at Weirder After Dark. And don't forget, if you're liking this shit, if you're fucking loving this shit, the best thing you can do to help us out is to share this podcast with someone you know and someone you love. And remember, it always gets a little weirder after dark.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.